Hey, coffee experts. Those of you running independent coffee shops, you're always looking for ways that you can drop your costs. And we here at the Coffee Experts Club really understand that. And so we've started something called Indie Coffee Coalition. And what it's designed to do is to drop your costs on two of the things that you're probably experiencing the highest sales volume in your store. And that is energy drink and frat mix. Those two line items, we've created our own products and are offering you those products at a reduced cost so that you can cut out the Red Bull of America. You can cut out the main lines of energy drinks that you're doing and serve your own energy drink at a reduced cost on a line item that you're probably already making a lot of sales on anyway. The best way that you can grow sales is by dropping your costs and maintaining a current volume. So check us out at indiecoffee.co and we'll love to tell you more there.
Welcome to the Coffee Experts Club, where we discuss all of the insights, expertise, and drama that goes into making your passion your profession. Our hosts, Aaron, Ben, and Drew, are three coffee experts who have taken their coffee experience and turned it into true expertise. They have consulted with major coffee brands throughout the United States and beyond, providing operations expertise and growth strategy for drive-thru openings, multiple locations, and everything in between. So brew yourself a cup and hang out a bit with the Coffee Experts Club.
Ben, like not everybody that's listening just on their podcast is going to gain this or glean this, but anybody that's watching on YouTube would see I've got glasses on today. That's a new thing. I've hit the 50. I've hit the centennial, the bicentennial. I'm 50. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, I've needed glasses probably for the last 2 years. And I
They
still
don't make
pull it.
bifocal contacts?
You know what I mean? Like that, that'd be an interesting idea. Anyway, so I leaned into it. I leaned into it hard. So I had a client ask me today, "Hey, you going for a rapper? Like what's going on?" So just please, go check it out on YouTube. Coffee experts. Great to have you here. If you're thinking about starting a drive-through coffee expression, if you're trying to grow your smaller coffee expression into more, like this is the place to come. Every week we're giving you free tools, free resources, free wisdom gleaned from us consulting with coffee clients all across the US and even internationally. And so this is the one-stop shop. So if you know somebody that's starting coffee, if you're there to start coffee on your own, this is the place to come. So Ben Clatterbuck, you and I have been doing this for a long time together. I was thinking about our history at Roasters just the other day, and you being the COO there at Roasters, 15 locations and a roastery, overseeing a couple hundred people. Now, taking that wisdom and giving that love to a lot of different brick and mortars out there, not just coffee. And so I think that we've got a lot of years together doing this. I'm excited to talk about what we're going to talk about today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So today I thought, Ben, it would be great for us to discuss, how do you find your next manager? Do you look internal? Do you look external? We've got a couple different recruiting projects going for a couple different clients right now where they're actually, story of two cities a little bit, of some of them that would lean one way, others that would lean the other way. Let's have a conversation about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's two schools of thought, right? There's the, sort of OG corporate school of thought. I don't even know if I would call it corporate, but more of the OG of put a job posting up online, or I mean, if you want to go way back, put it in the paper. I'm hiring for a new position. You
Right.
get, a bunch of applications, especially these days, a lot of applications looking for some sort of management position. You go through the whole interview process, you weed it down. I mean, that's our recruiting 101 is, first interview, second interview, what's your resume history, all of that sort of stuff. One school of thought. The other school of thought is, just simply internally raising up management through your own employees, like I did at Roasters. Started off as a barista, was working the night and afternoon shift. And then slowly over the years, it was like, hey, could you do this? Yeah, I can do that. Okay. Hey, can you do this? Yeah, I can do that. Hey, do you want to be a manager here? Yeah, sure. I could do that. Want to be a regional manager? Yeah, sure. I could do that. And as positions open up, you ascend your people internally. I think both have pros and cons align with them. Both schools of thought are popular, or modes of thought are popular because they do get you result. I think there's a lot of factors that determine which way you want to go. Some of the main factors, how big is your employee base?
That's right.
If you've only got, 4 employees, it's kind of hard to glean 2 managers out of that employee base because, well, now you've only got 2 non-management employees. So how big is your employee base? Do you have, if you're in the mode of thought of I'm going to raise up people internally, well, do you even have a way to do that? What does that look like? What does a manager for your company look like? So there's a lot of things to think about. We could probably talk about that for an entire half hour on what you need to put in place if you want to do either of those. I think really it comes down to what is important to you for your business. When
Yeah.
it comes to raising people up internally, the main reason companies do that is it gives you really, really, really solid culture inside the company, inside your
That's right.
management. You know what
Right.
your manager thinks because you saw them grow up in the company. One of the main reasons to hire from outside your company is maybe a manager needs some technical skills that you just can't raise up yourself, and you need to go find somebody who's technically or educated in a certain space that you can't find within your company. So it really depends on what you're looking for.
Yeah. So I would say this. I think, I'm going to flip it on its head a little bit here. I think that some of those answers are going to come from within you, right? As the owner. My question to you would be, and this would, man, be honest with yourself. It's not going to do any good, for you to be lying to yourself on what kind of leader you are. How do you do at handing things off? Ben,
Yeah.
we talked about this just the other day, right?
Yep.
Like, what are the highlights of Wes? Like, I don't know that Wes was a great leader in all regards, but one of the highlights of Wes at Roasters was he never got in the weeds on figuring stuff out. He's just like, yeah, that's a shitty situation. Go figure it out. Like, I don't want to get in the middle of that. Right. Like you go figure it out. But in that, I think that there's a lot, like if you've got a people group that are problem solvers, like for you, Ben, you excelled in it because you're like, great, get out of my way. I can figure this out.
Mhm.
Other managers, other leaders, sorry, other owners that are out there have a really hard time letting things go, and they stay in all the minutia. And it's like we've got a client right now that Ben, you and I both know who we're thinking about as we talk about it, where it's like,
Mhm.
I love them. I love them as owners. They're such salt of the earth people. Like they're so good to their employees. Like they've got such a beautiful thing in the multiple locations that they've got, but they just don't hand things off well. Like they stay stuck in the middle of things. And then it's like, what are you doing? Like
Mhm.
you're too big for this. Like you should not be this far in the weeds on all this stuff. And if you ask them, I think that they would tell you, oh, it's really hard to find the right people to hand stuff off to. But I would say it's because they're not really good at handing stuff off to people.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So the question you really have to ask yourself is, if I'm looking for management, before I even decide whether that's internal or external when it comes to hiring, do I really want a manager? I
Right.
may say that I want a manager and I want somebody to take care of this. That's what I'm saying. But internally, am I actually going to allow a manager to manage a location or multiple locations? Will I, as an owner or an operator, allow a regional manager to fulfill a regional management position? Or am I just going to hire them? I'm going to still try and do everything. And then in 6 months, I'm going to be like, this, I hired this manager and they don't do anything. Why am I
Yeah.
paying them?
Yeah.
Well, it's because you hired them because you wanted to, but you didn't really let yourself flourish in a management position.
Man, I would say so. The first thing I would challenge you to do is, and you can message us if you want it, but I'd love to send it over to you, is there's a Delegate Elevate tool out there that we talk about a lot on this show that is part of EOS's toolbox. So it's not mine. It belongs to Gino Wickman, but they give it to you free online. And we just made a spin off to make it a little bit cleaner. And I feel like bring it a little bit more into the 21st century of like what it should look like and how it should work for you. But all it does is identifies what should you be handing off. And the tool is really clear and easy on how do I figure out what I'm supposed to be handing off? And then ask yourself, am I going to hand this off? Or am I going to continue to push it like peas around the plate? I mean, like
Mhm.
I'm just pushing it around and pushing it around because I think that until you come up with a mindset of, I'm not going to do this anymore, I think that like trying to raise somebody up internally is not going to work. Cause I would say I would start with, I'm always going to advocate for, let's try and grow them internal if we can. But
Mhm.
if you don't have the ability to grow people internal because you're the choking point, then I would say you're going to want to hire external until you've decided that you're willing to hand stuff off. I talked about a client that we have right now that we both know and love that just holds on to too much. They're going to have the hardest time finding them. And they would tell you, we have a hard time finding people we can hand it off to. I would probably say, no, that you have a hard time handing things off. And that's why you're not able to find the right people. But I talked about how Drew, I would say we've always advocated for grow them from within, but you're not going to be able to grow them from within if you're not able to hand stuff off, because then you're not going to even know, could they be a good leader? Because we're not entrusting anybody to be a good leader because we've become the choking point. So I think coming up with that point first. Hey, experts, we've got something really awesome that we do here at Coffee Experts Club, and that's called the My First Drive-Through Coffee Masterclass. So if you're opening your next coffee shop, I think a lot of times you may think to yourself, I know what goes into opening a coffee shop. I've been doing this for years, but maybe you've been doing it for somebody else. And maybe this is your first option of starting a coffee shop on your own. Or maybe you don't know anything about coffee and you're just like, I'm looking for a good investment opportunity. Starting a coffee shop seems like a good place to put it, and you're going to enter into it. But what you don't know is all the things that you don't know, right? And so what we've done with this masterclass is taken behind the scenes, how you find your first location, what you need to be thinking about in finding a location. We give you a gift in the masterclass where it's a step-by-step process of how you're opening your coffee shop, the different checkpoints you need from coming up with your plans and talking with the city and then negotiating a lease. And then how do you build a team and what are the different pieces you need to be thinking about? It's a great masterclass, door to door, start to finish, completely free on opening up your next coffee drive-thru. So check it out. It's at myfirstdrivethru.coffee, and it's a great masterclass. You won't regret it. We'll see you on the inside there. Drew, I feel like you do this really well. Do you mind talking about that just a little bit? Like, how do you, I feel like I do less well at this and you do better at this than I do. No, I'm not going to do that. No, hand that down to the manager. So talk to us about that a little bit. Like, how do you make that decision in your own mind?
Yeah, well, I think for any good business to run smooth, things need to, you're going to have the ability to make things simple. You're going to have to be able to make things efficient, and you're going to have to be able to hand things off, because simple and efficient doesn't mean you're doing everything, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of like to sprinkle around within the stores, within one store, two stores, whatever the business are, and see, you know, who's loyal with what. And if they're loyal with it, if they did well with it, or if they struggled with it, if they have good questions, it's kind of like, you know, seasoning here and there to see, who can pick up on the tasks, who has the lad. Some people have natural abilities. Most of us, I think, have natural abilities, but some people have them within the coffee shop. So I think delegating minor tasks to anybody and everybody who's willing to learn, because some people just want to be a barista. Some people just want to be a closer, but some people want to excel, but you don't know unless you ask. You don't know unless you're willing to take that risk of this person might fail and then I have to clean up afterwards, because that does happen more often than not in those beginning stages. The person is going to fail with the task or do it incorrectly or do it incomplete. And you're going to have to teach them on the back end. But really, I think the biggest value of that process is the teaching on the back end, because even if the person has that natural ability, the attention you're giving them as the leader is going to grow them so much more. It's going to help them with their belief in themselves. It's going to help them with their belief in their ability to learn more things. I mean, most of us don't learn anything after school on purpose. You know, it's on accident. It's through force. You know, so providing this fertile ground for people to learn and lean into their natural abilities, it's going to also allow you to do the same thing. I can't do everything in the business. You can't do everything in the business. So we have to share the work. We have to share the load.
Mm-hmm. I think you make a really good point on the difference between if I'm a company that wants to raise up my management from internal current employees versus hiring externally, is that internal raising up and teaching of current employees kind of has to be a part of your culture from a little bit of the outset. Like you have to build that into, or you have to run and own your company in that mindset of, I want to teach people and I want them to raise up and I want to ascend my employees. If you have, 3 or 4 locations and that hasn't been a part of your culture, it's going to be really difficult, 4, 5, 6 locations in to say, okay, and pump the brakes. I want to start like ascending it and hiring management from within, because you kind of have to start at square one. It's way easier to do that when you're at shop 1 and 2 to say, hey, you know what, guys, I want to open up management positions for you. I want to open up ascension plans for you guys. We're going to start this from the ground up where we teach. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to give you guys random tasks. If you like it, sure, awesome, great. If you don't want to do it, that's great. Just be a closer. Totally fine with that. But it's much easier to do that when you're in the early stages versus having to take a huge culture shift towards that from, say, we've always just, gone on Indeed and posted a management job posting. And we've always had to, filter through those applicants. We've always had to train them. So I would say if you're just starting a new coffee company, if you're getting ready to start your own coffee shop, it's a great decision to make out the gate. What kind of coffee company do I want to be? Do I want to be one that ascends people from a barista? I want to be able to give them a job and I want to give them a career path. Or do I want to be a company that wants to open up job opportunities for people who are already in that career path? Both are good. We prefer internal ascension just because of the culture aspect, but both are very possible. You just kind of have to make that decision early on.
I think too, like there's part of it where maybe, so I think a lot of times we assume people are going to start grassroots independent the way that we all started grassroots independent. But I think there are plenty of people out there that are sitting on capital that want to deploy it in a brick and mortar that's proven. And that's the franchise pathway, right? So
Mhm.
you're choosing a franchise pathway. I would say in that scenario, you're probably going to go external for most of your hires
Mhm.
because you're not internal understanding all the inner workings of the business that you're actually going to hand off to people, right? So this becomes much more job description oriented. We're going to hire based upon the job description. So then it makes much more sense to just go to that, go to your socials, post a link, go to LinkedIn, go to Indeed, go to these community boards at the local college, where you can like post job opportunities because it's going to be very much, hey, this is tried and true. This is footprinted out for us. I'm opening this new expression of a human being. I'm opening this new expression of a BlackRock and whatever it is that you're opening. That's a franchise scooters, that you're out there, that you're opening up a franchisable thing. That's probably going to be something you do more as like a traditional recruiting project. We do plenty of those recruiting projects for brick and mortars. Now, Ben, you're in the middle of one right now where you have a recruiter that's working for you in this brick and mortar that you're consulting with. And I think at that point, then it becomes much more just straightforward. We're not trying to hand off duties. We're not trying to peel things off of the owner. Then it's just, no, each role has these responsibilities. And now we're just looking for somebody that has the skill set to do that.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. And I mean, these roles all naturally are going to come from the leaders. They're going to come from whoever started the business. They're going to come from the original team. The evolution of a manager to a regional manager, or the evolution of a closer to a tech. All these things are going to come naturally. So even if your culture isn't necessarily a culture of teaching and educating, I think it would benefit everyone in the long run to develop those, even a little bit of those talents, or have somebody around you who has those talents, because something that we've been kind of tossing around here is the pipeline of how do we really develop somebody. What are the skills required to be a manager, and what is the process I have to put this person through to test whether or not they're going to be good at it, rather than just, okay, here's a store, let's figure out where you lack after you're in charge of everything, which tends to happen in reality. So I think if you had a pipeline, if you had a process, and yet you still want to hire from outside of your business, that pipeline now becomes a testing ground, a training ground. Or this person, I really like them. Let me put them through X, Y, Z, which would naturally train somebody on these steps. And if they have the abilities, if they can do this thing, they're going to be a good hire.
Yeah. So that's good. So I would say, in summing up the show today, I would say, identify what kind of leader are you? What kind of business is it that you're starting? Is it something you're starting as grassroots, or you're stepping into a franchise model? If you're stepping into one versus the other, it's probably going to lend itself to one versus the other. If it's a grassroots, you're probably going to be the barista at first. You're probably going to be the manager at first. You're going to probably be the one that takes the pilot position. And then it just becomes, okay, can you hand that off? Awesome. Let's start at a gradual rate. Like Drew was saying, like break off little pieces, see who's going to be responsible for what, grow it internally. Or if you're like, no, I just know I want to be more hands-off in the business, great. And that's going to mean find a framework, that you can use. We've got a framework here too. It's not a franchise model, but it's us pushing back on the franchise model a little bit. It's your first drive-thru.coffee. And I think it's actually I think I do this every time. My first drive-thru.coffee.
My first drive-thru.coffee.
So where we take you through
your first drive-thru.
Right, it will be yours, but it's where we walk you through the framework. We have a 32-week process where we take you through just all the different ins and outs that we think you're going to need in Coffee Experts Academy. So if you're just looking for something to invest in, like franchise model, or something that's already templated, or am I going to actually be the pilot? That's probably going to dictate how you're going to make your hire. And then I would say from there, use the vehicles that apply best to each. So I hope that answers some of the questions today. Coffee Experts, Drew, Ben, totally appreciate your time. And I'm grateful to be with you guys today, and look forward to next week's here on Coffee Experts Club.
See you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much for joining us today. For those of you who are looking to become a coffee expert yourself, we offer an incredible, thorough training online for opening your first coffee drive-thru at www.myfirstdrivethru.coffee.